Okej, hej och välkomna till Brillo Vox. Och det här kommer vi snacka på engelska, jag och Egill. Vi har bjudit hit Egill. Det är Stockholm Art Week, så att vi har ett digert program. Men Egill har ju tagit över, eller som jag sa tidigare, han har gjort en takeover på Stockholm. So I'll switch to English and I welcome Egill Sæbjörnsson.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
we were discussing how it was pronounced in Icelandic. Could you just tell me again?
Yeah, Egill Sæbjörnsson.
That's it. So we start with a round of applause for Egill.
Thank you.
And you are here because we're so curious about your art, and you have an exhibition, or you have 4 exhibitions, or it's one exhibition in 4 places.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. It started in a conversation with Kummelholmen, with Torbjörn and Jan, some years ago. And then there was a curator involved, Maaike Gouwenberg from Holland. And the idea was to do an exhibition in many places. Mm-hmm. So it could have been like Kummelholmen and then just some gasoline station and then maybe in the bush and then this and that, you know. But then, so we've been in a conversation actually like since years back. I think that they invited me to exhibit at the Kummelholmen like just after they opened. Oh. And then I just finished the Venedigbiennalen. So it was a little bit busy. So I had to kind of say no at that time. But then we talked again some years after, and then
So the Venice was
2017. Yeah. And then we started talking again, probably around 2020 or something. And then Moderna Museet, I was talking with Katrin Lundqvist, and we wanted to do something. So that already started to kind of to grow together. And then Andy's gallery came into it, and then Stockholm Konst. So there is a piece in Vårberg Centrum in the train station when you're there, and in Kummelholmen, and then Andy's gallery is opening tonight, and tomorrow there is a day at the film club in Moderna Museet, ending with a party at Moderna Museet.
Fantastic.
And the works will also stand there for like 3 days or something like that. Yes.
So that's fantastic. That's a takeover.
That's a takeover.
Yeah,
totally.
Good. So I was more curious about like how it all, because it started as one show and then it's just grew and grew and grew. And how do you like intertwine and connected the things? So could you tell me a bit about what your thoughts about Kummelholmen? I don't know if everybody knows, but it's a fantastic place started by Jan, who's here with us today, and Torbjörn. And we all appreciate that as a place, which is a new space for us in Stockholm.
Yeah, it's great because it's so different and it's so raw, and it's nice that the works fit in really well because they are these kind of colorful video works, and with this gray background, it's a good support. You know, it's different than the white cube. You know.
Yeah.
And yes, but I can tell you a little bit about this exhibition. It has a theme, which is object species.
Yes.
Which is a term I've talked about in a lecture performance that will be also repeated at the Moderna Museet tomorrow. And it talks about, basically narrows down to art being some sort of a fellow that walks beside us. So instead of us imagining art just being pictures and sculptures that we make and these like dead things, they are kind of affecting us back. So we create them, but in a sneaky way they are creating us.
Yeah.
So, but it's like a dead thing. But if you can see it as something that has been walking with us for a long time, and if you look at art history, it's kind of like an evolution of a being, of a species.
Yes.
So it's an object species. And this object species is, you know, is creating us as we create them.
Yeah.
So, and then object species, and in these exhibitions, which is also then with one roof over it, object species sculptures is they're all in all the places there are sculptures. So in Kummelholmen the show there is just called The Sculptures because the objects, they kind of look like typical sculptures from the 20th century. Mm-hmm. But then they have video projection on it that is kind of changing them. And in Warburg Centrum, there are sculptures that look like dogs, you know? So it's like it's object pretending to be sculptures that are pretending to be dogs.
Oh.
And at Andes, it's lipsticks as object species. So it's like dogs, sculptures, and lipsticks, but they're all sculptures actually.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember seeing a film footage by one of your installations in an art hall with a lot of kids looking at cubes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, you saw that.
Yeah. And at one moment, the cube starts jumping, and with a fantastic sound, and all the kids are really startled. They're almost scared.
Yeah.
Is that also? Are you also like imagining that kind of?
Kids are my favorite audience, you know, because I was a kid, and I remember. There are things that you saw something and you got fascinated by it, you know, as a kid, and it kind of lives with you, and it's like deep in your nerve system, and it's kind of like making an effect, you know. I remember some music video I saw with like a yellow brick wall. I have no idea what the music was, but I still, it's in there. Oh. So when I'm doing something, I tend to maybe repeat that yellow brick wall or something. And when kids like my work, you know, that's like, of course it's my favorite, because then I'm like hoping that I will be allowed to be part of their future, you know.
Of course.
And, you know, so it's, that particular piece was on display at the Reykjavik Art Museum, and it was just filming a group of children, and then they were like, because, it has this video projection. It's 4 boxes, and then they kind of like flow out and rotate and then land again, but that's like a video projection, and the kids were just looking at it and they got like caught up in the magic of it, and you know, like
it was amazing seeing that film actually.
And that was actually programmed by a Swedish friend of mine, Fubbe Karlsson.
Okay.
He did the programming of it, so because it has a Arduino on the inside. I don't know if people know what that is.
Yeah. So it's like, explain.
So the boxes fly out. It would have been perfect if we had it on the video. And then when they land, boom, they make a sound. But the sound is not on speakers as we usually have it. There's a little hammer inside the box that does like dunk.
So it's more physical.
So it's more physical.
Yeah.
And that was trying to draw attention to the artwork being somebody that does something. Talking about object species. Being a being.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the start of it, kind of at that time, you know. So because it has a movement, you know. I wanted to integrate like a motor to show that the art piece is not a passive phenomenon or being, you know. It's actually active. Yeah. Okay.
So that was actually the start of your Stockholm takeover, because that was
maybe
the Swedish
Fubbe. Yeah.
Okay. So, but initially you were starting your dialogue with Kummelholmen after the Venedigbiennalen.
Yeah, before.
Yeah.
I think that we met 10 years ago at the Venedigbiennalen, actually.
Okay.
2013, right?
Wet evening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Could you tell me more? Because I don't know if everybody knows your participation with the 2017 Biennale.
Yeah, that was with trolls that you actually see now on this image. Here they are playing with Dallas Symphony Orchestra Youth Orchestra. Because Ook and Book are my two imaginary friend trolls. Their favorite food is people. Because trolls in Iceland, they eat people.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was invited to do the Venedigbiennalen, they got very jealous, and they said that they could do it better. So they were like whining for days until I just, okay, you can do it, and then they did it.
Yeah.
And here they're doing this concert, but they're with the youth orchestra because they on the first rehearsal with a big orchestra, they ate the whole orchestra.
Oh no.
So yeah. So we had to get the youth orchestra to play.
Yeah.
And you see them there in the back, you know, and yeah, it's a video projection behind them. So at the Venedigbiennalen, then it was utgång, that's their names, and they are actually in action tonight at Andy's.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They're hiding behind the artworks. You know, you go in there and you think it's all kind of like some art, you know,
but they're not hungry.
There are these two trolls there.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. They're being fed by everyone that attends the exhibition. Exactly. We think we're consuming the art, right? I don't know. And then So then you were asking about the Venedigbiennale.
Yeah.
It was one way of describing it is it's an espresso bar. It actually had two gigantic heads, the heads of utgång, facing each other, like we are facing each other now.
Okay.
And you could walk into the heads. They were on 3 floors.
Oh.
Because they're very big heads. And then you could sit inside one head and look through little holes and see the other head speaking, and they were speaking with each other, with people inside the heads, looking at each other through little holes, like you had pores in the face.
Okay, fantastic.
And so it was like a playful thing. You would come into the space.
Yes.
You could order an espresso. And then you could go into the heads and sit down. And that was kind of like also an important thing for me, that you don't come to an art exhibition where you're kind of being put onto a hard floor in white walls and kind of almost as if you're being punished, you know, because it's so hard to stand there and think really hard and look at the art. You know, you should like sit down and have a cup of coffee like we're doing here, you know, sit down, have a cup of coffee, be inspired by some art on the walls, and you know, and then that would lead to a conversation, and you know, somehow, you know, that's life, you know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, so you would get a cup of coffee, you would walk into the heads, and you would look at the artwork and enjoy it a little bit, and then go out again.
So yeah, just to get this right, you were ordered to do something at the Venedigbiennale. But the trolls took over that.
They took over.
Took
over. I mean.
Yeah. Of course.
But it's and then of course I would not do that kind of pieces, but because of this imaginary force that I was conversing with, you know.
Yeah.
So they came in as some sort of a force, even though they're just imaginary. Yeah, they are existing force.
If I was to imagine being a kid, seeing that would probably make some memories for me.
Right, so, exactly.
As we talk about like the audience, kids, and
yeah.
So, did you have any kids at the? Did you see any interaction with kids in the trolls, or?
Just a lot of people.
Just a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So then we're continuing. After the Venice, and that's 2017. Now it's 5 years later.
Yeah,
and you've been progressing, and now you're not installing trolls so much anymore, or
also, they continue to
like at Andy's tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're still a part of you.
Yeah, they are fun to play with.
Good.
Yeah, and.
Are they present at Kummelholmen also?
No, not in that sense. No. There is the sculptures are the beings, you know, that I'm interacting with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And So we've been talking about Kummelholmen and we were talking about Vårberg Centrum,
Yes.
Stockholm Konst.
Yes.
With the dogs.
Yes.
Could you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a lift shaft that you can take a lift to go into the Loppemarknaden.
Yep.
And as I was standing there,
where dogs not were allowed, or
you got it.
Yeah,
you totally got it. So
Yeah.
dogs, no alcohol, no food. And it was actually Torbjörn that pointed it out because I wasn't reading the sign. And I just knew that I was going to make some object on top of the lift shaft. Didn't know exactly what. And then I thought about like doing dogs and maybe some alcohol bottles, and they would be smoking, you know, and so it would be everything. Yeah, but then when I started to actually make the work, then there was no space. I had made a few dogs, and they were so big that they took up the whole space. And then it was enough actually, also just to have the dogs, because the point was not that it's not allowed to smoke and drink. You know, I don't care. But it was nice that it was actually dogs, because so these are sculptures up there that are being object species. But dogs are also species, right?
Of course.
And the dog evolved from the wolf by interaction with humans, right? That's something that is being said. So the dog is an interesting species because it's kind of like in between the wolf and the human. And art is maybe similar, because you say art exists as forms and colors and things in nature and objects. We picked them up and we did something with them, and then we have this thing in the middle, which is art as species. So I've often used the metaphor of the art being a little bit like the dog. It's a species that walks alongside humanity and we interact with. So it's nice to have the dogs there as a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk more about these object species things also at the Moderna. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Moderna, you're showing some films also.
Yeah, there I'm showing old works. So Katrin Lundqvist and Lena, they picked my first work where I worked with video projection, projected onto things, which was a cloth.
Yep.
And it had a hole in it for the face. I was standing behind it and put my face through. So you just saw my face, but then like the body was projected, you know. So it was like, for a moment it was a human body, then it changed into a spider and was walking, and then it changed into something else. And you know, this was like 2001, and it was kind of like this time when kind of virtual reality was really exciting. So it was kind of the idea of how our bodies can change in virtual reality, and through art also. You know, within the space of art, it is kind of virtual. You know, space of art is kind of virtual, and so they're picking these old works. So it's like that one, and then a piece called Mr. Piano and Miss Pile, which is also is cutouts of a character that looks like a piano and a character that looks like a pile, and they're talking with each other, like through video projections. So it's like a video work, but it's performing in space. You know.
Yeah. You got a wide range of what you're showing right now, actually, and also historical, or like one of the first pre-Berlin area or era.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I moved to Berlin in '99, so I was already there back then.
Yeah,
but from 20 years ago.
And
that reminds me, shall we like maybe restart the video?
I'll restart the video, and you need to tell me more about like. I feel a lot of like the trolls and the folk inspiration. Is that like something that inspires you, and is that also? I'm wondering if that's sort of Icelandic, if that's present.
It was kind of the opposite. It was kind of the last and the least thing that one would like to talk about in art, right? Because it's so uncool.
Yeah.
So I saw those two little plastic trolls in an airport in 2008 in Oslo, you know, with these big noses, and I thought, like, this is probably the most stupid thing that, you know, that exists on the planet. And but then it kind of, that's when that idea kind of planted itself, you know, in my mind, and I just kind of, and then my curiosity started, you know, because it's like, I've always thought that in fashion, you know, what is next in fashion is somehow something that is the least in fashion at the moment, and then it gets like turned around, and like the last will be the first, and you know, it's always this turnaround. And so I got like kind of curious. Yeah, there we see the sculptures at Kummelholmen, and then it's like mixed stuff. This is all kinds of different things. This is actually from my mother and my grandmother. We were also working together at the farm in Iceland. Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
Sorry. Yeah. So now you have these shows going on.
Yeah.
What are you going to do next time you come to Stockholm?
Oh, that's gonna be fun. Well, I am actually gonna come again at some point later this summer, because we have to, you know, pack the show also. You know?
Yes.
And get it ready to ship it back to Berlin, you know, to my studio.
Yeah,
it's a lot of boxes, you know.
Yeah.
And so I will do that. That's the next thing that I can remember.
And do you have any other plans for the next coming of the year and stuff like that you could tell us more about?
Sure. Yeah. After this, I go to Berlin to work with a group of kids again at the Gropiusbau, which is a museum there. They have now become specialists in Ugenbuger.
Oh.
They know everything about Ugenbuger, and they have like plans for Gropiusbau. It's no longer a museum, it's like a tourist trap. So they're gonna build a tourist trap at the museum where Ugenbuger are gonna like hunt tourists.
Wow.
So I will go there, and I probably spend some time making some, you know, I think one of it could be like a gigantic plate, you know, like to eat plate that it will be in a room, you know. It's kind of like, that came from one of the kids that made like a huge drawing of a plate and like some big spoons and forks. And that's the next thing.
Yeah.
Then I go to Iceland. I'm doing a show together with the Kunstwerke, that is also another institute in Berlin.
Yep.
And the Living Art Museum in Iceland is like on the digital platform. So trying to figure out how can an institute exist on a digital platform. There I'm going to talk about virtuality as object species. How virtuality has existed long predating computers and even predating humans.
Wow.
And then I am going to work on what do you call it? Bühnenbild for a theater play in Iceland.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
The stage picture. Yeah. So this is coming up now in the summer, yeah.
It sounds like you have a lot to do.
Yes. It's a good year. Yeah.
So if we want to meet your trolls, we come to Anders tonight.
Yes.
And then maybe Gropiusbau
later this summer or spring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I do have a lot of questions, but I think I let the audience. If anybody has some questions, I have a microphone for you guys. So raise your hand and I'll come with the microphone.
That would be nice. Yeah.
So
it's such a nice format that you have people coming here.
Yeah, well, they're all nice people also.
Yeah,
so that makes it nice. Yeah. So so these plastic trolls that you found at the airport.
Yeah.
Are those two the beginning of your trolls, or?
That's the question, you know, because at that point, you know, I thought like this is the most stupid thing that exists, you know, like these trolls.
Yeah.
And then I started to get busy with the trolls.
Yeah.
And then like years later, I was like fooling around with some friends, like, let's make some troll paintings. Ha 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 ha. If I had like a studio visit or something, I'd like quickly like pack them away because like this was like not so cool, you know, like I was hiding in it. And then I saw an exhibition with Tove Jansson, the author of the Mumins.
Yeah.
In Helsinki. And I thought like, man, Tove Jansson, this is an artist. It's not a children book author, you know. And I thought like, I can actually should exhibit the trolls as art and stop being so shy about it. And you know, but of course I grew up with all kinds of stories of trolls. So the idea already exists, like predating my birth. You know, I mean, the idea of the trolls may be hundreds of years old, and then it's traveling, and then, you know, maybe I'm just dipping into it, working with it, and then it continues, and somebody else does something else, you know, and then could be an idea that is standing there on its own, and I'm working on it a little bit, you know. So the idea of the trolls predates me for sure.
So it's always been presence for you.
It's for me. There's always been. I remember the trolls, you know, from when I was a kid. Yeah, from Icelandic kind of folklore.
And are you brought up in the city or in the?
I'm brought up in the city, and partly on. I mean, my family comes from a farm, like 45 minutes outside of Reykjavik.
Okay.
So, yeah, I went there like every week, you know,
to see the trolls.
Just the cows, and I was trying to see the trolls, you know, and not really believing the grown-ups that they existed. And yeah.
So a lot,
but apparently they exist, you know. Actually,
I'm not surprised.
Like, I am actually. If you want to go into that, like my work is maybe not necessarily really exactly. It's not really about the folklore. It's about something else. I think that the trolls might be about playfulness. You know, that we can just be playful and be kind of more creative. You know?
Yeah,
that has been killed a little bit maybe in nowadays society with all this Excel stuff.
Of course,
I don't know. I mean, that's what somebody actually pointed out, because I don't really know what it is about. You know, the trolls. But the older that I grow, you know, the more stories I hear about, you know, elf interactions and even trolls. I heard about the story where a woman was kind of brought into a connection with a troll woman that helped her once on the mountain, and she realized, you know, because she had felt that she got.
That's the restaurant.
We are in the restaurant here. That she got like magically pushed up from some danger at some point.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was this was, and then like 20 years later, she meets a medium, and there's a troll woman, and she says like, "Hi, how are you? Do you remember when we met?" And then the woman had no idea that what trolls, they don't exist. And then you were on the mountain, and you couldn't go up or you couldn't go down. You were stuck in the snow, and then I helped you up. And then she remembered that she had been kind of somehow mysteriously pushed up and got saved.
That's so nice to hear. Yeah. So I was also wondering about one thing that we haven't discussed, and that's your music.
Oh yeah, music is a nice creature.
Yeah, because you have a nice career there also. So you're performing in many areas. Yeah,
the music is just so lovely, you know. Like when you sit down with a guitar and you're like, you know, making melodies and then. Recording them and, you know, making songs, and I made some albums. And
I've been listening a lot to your albums.
Yeah, you did? Okay, nice. That's so nice.
Because you're a new acquaintance, but when I found out and the Icelandic music scene or the cultural scene is quite vivid, I think. I think it's really interesting. And do Do you miss being in that hub? Or
I am a lot in Iceland.
okay.
Yeah, I go there all the time. And then I meet all my old friends and get to know new friends. And yeah, we still hang out a lot. And it was great, you know, like kind of growing up in Iceland. We would kind of hang out in the same bars like 5 days a week. And it was like the music scene and the art scene. And everyone was kind of studying art or starting in a band or something. And then it all mixed up somehow.
So you're still connected with the Icelandic culture scene?
A lot, yes. Yes.
So partly influences from there and from Berlin and everywhere else?
Say it again?
If you're partly influenced from Icelandic culture scene and...
I think that my Icelandic friends firstly influenced me most. They were the people that I was most in dialogue with.
Oh, yeah.
And still am with some of them. But then obviously after 23 years in Berlin, I also have had friends from other places.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. But it's the deepest, it's the first. The first cut is the deepest.
Oh, that's nice to hear, actually. I think that's what we're signing off with. The first cut is the deepest. And if anybody has any questions, just tell us. But otherwise, I'll say thank you for this. I feel we got a lot of explanations here, and we do believe in trolls.
Thank you for asking all the questions. I couldn't have done it on my own.
Okay, thanks for the audience, and applause for Egill.